And we're live. Hot Rick. Hey, how's everybody doing? Hey, I actually managed to pull this off. I didn't have any screw ups this time, other than I forgot to turn the music off. I missed you last week.
Yes, Dan missed me last week. I've heard all about how Dan missed me last week. Did everyone else in the chat people miss me last week?
I actually, they were asking, a couple of people were at, the regulars were asking where you were, and I said you're out enjoying time with family, and I wouldn't let you do the show because you did. To be fair, you did offer to come on, and I said no. I went dad on you. So, yeah, it was. I have to be honest, it was one of the best shows I've had in a while. I never laughed so hard in my life doing a live show. The haters were out, the simps were out. They were after me, and the regulars and I were having a ball just laughing at them.
I missed the parade of panda bears.
Oh my God, it was so bad. It was so bad. And the funniest part of all was the topic is masculinity in crisis, right? And everything they were saying was proving the point that it's not, that it's femininity that's in crisis, right? So, but it was just kind of hilarious how they kept going on and on and on. And we're like, okay, whatever you want to say, I did cut one person off because they started swearing a lot. And they used the C word, which I will never allow. So I have a big, really, Steve, they're already starting.
I know exactly why there are no Walmarts in Iran.
Go ahead, finish the joke.
Because it's full of Targets.
Yes. I mean, that's an oldie. That they used that one for Iraq in the 90s. Anyway.
But Country did come up with a question. It says, good.
Well, before we jump in, let's let everybody know we're doing open mic today. Sorry. Poor Lindsay. I heard of Fifi's. Oh no.
Oh no. What Fifi's?
Oh wait, I forgot to put my mic where it's supposed to be. No, so we're open mic today. You guys get to ask us any questions you want, any topic you want us to cover within the realm of men's issues. Let's not get too far into politics because that always ends up happening. But we can touch on a few subjects, which I think we're going to kind of sort of right off the bat. So now go, Lindsay.
All right. Country, whom we love and adore, says, a good topic of conversation. Is there a reason that the justice system is so blind to women committing crimes because they view them as stupid toddlers, or do the courts just not care what women do and use their hormones as an excuse? We actually touched on this on the podcast that Dan and I filmed yesterday with...
No, it's...
we actually sort of kind of touched... You know what? We're going to ignore him. Look at me, everyone. We kind of sort of touched on this a little bit. It is human nature, masculine nature, to want to protect women. And because biologically speaking, without women, there are no children, and without children, the species dies. And because of that, I feel like women have weaponized I'm just a girl. I can't do any harm. And it is somewhat human nature, or at least masculine nature, I think, to want to give women the benefit of the doubt. Mm-hmm. And then here I am going, nope, burn her to the ground, put her on a stake and burn her, because I'm a female and I know that tendency to want to give women the benefit of the doubt has gotten us into quite a bit of trouble, especially in recent years, because women should be held accountable. You cannot sit there and say that we are equal to men if we are not equally culpable of accepting consequences for equally horrible things.
And the big one being recently, and I started talking about this because I've been working on a project for a year and a half now, which is all of the teachers, nurses, daycare workers, the list, different jobs that are female that are being caught doing unspeakable things to children, right? Young boys and so on. And I'm working on it. I'm going to be doing a video. It's probably a month or two out because I wanted to get 18 months worth of data, but in that time, there has not been one day, not a single day that I haven't gotten, because I have notifications set up through various ways, that I haven't gotten a notification that another woman was arrested, right? And it's not just SA or R, it's child abuse, all that stuff, right? But when you start looking at that and you realize, and the reason my point is it's not to put women down, it's to highlight that predator is a predator. Who cares if they're male or female, right? The paradigm is let's blame the male ones and wood chippers fall on them, right? But we don't, we excuse the female ones, to your point, right? What you were saying. We want to protect them. Well, why are we protecting them? And it's that's the biggest one I see. Domestic violence is another one. Women pretty much get a pass the whole time. Although to be fair, it is starting to change a little. Not much, but the pendulum is swinging where there's more and more recognition that men are victims. Um, Again, I was talking with someone Friday, I think it was, yeah, Friday, in the industry, and I called domestic violence an industry, and she was acknowledging, yeah, we kind of did you guys bad, and I appreciated that because she runs a shelter, and um, to her credit, um, she's changing it. They had no beds for men for years. Now they have two, I think it's two, and working on 4 beds for men. So they have 2 rooms. One is already set up, 2 beds per room, and they're working on a second one. Now, that compares to 20 or so for the women, but you know what? It's a start. And I'm not going to negate any of the work she's doing or put it down in any way, shape, or form. She's making the change. And I, for one, appreciated that. And I have worked with her a little bit on messaging, because that was actually the reason she reached out to me, was how do we reach these guys? Because her website, the reason I spoke to her 4 years ago about her website, which was all female victim. And that's how she got my name. And she said, we need to change the website. How do we do that? And that's where the conversation went. But to your point, Lindsay, it is trying to protect the women, but we have to realize who we're protecting.
Well, it's like someone down in the comments on TikTok called me, "Oh, look, a female misogynist." Interestingly enough, it is more misogynistic to assume that by virtue of being a woman, I am less capable of harm. Now, I may not be as capable as like Dan of doing a specific type of harm. There's harm that men are uniquely capable of. Brute force is one of them. Mm-hmm. But I would argue that as a woman, I am actually more capable of doing harm than Dan is. I don't even have to touch Dan. All I have to do is open my mouth and make an accusation, and I'm instantly capable of ruining not only his life, but his wife's life and anyone associated with him, all on my word alone. So this belief that by virtue of being female, I am less dangerous, it's different kinds of danger. A man is perceived as more physically dangerous, whereas a woman, so he is more of a charging bull. I am a snake in the grass. You won't even know I'm there until you step on me and I bite you. And
go ahead.
So that kind of behavior, exactly, that commenter in the thing is calling me a misogynist, because what I am doing the opposite of misogyny. I am sitting there saying that no, women are just as capable of men of being horrible, vile, terrible humans, just like we are just as capable of, as men, of being good humans. We are, this is the key word, we are both human.
And that's the key point, right? And that's why I was saying a predator is a predator. Who cares if they're male or female, right? That's a bad human, but there's also plenty of good humans, male and female. The majority of people, I was working on a video script earlier today, and I made the point in the video, which will probably get released next week, maybe, where I was pointing out stuff like this. And I said, you know what? We compare 100% of the men based on the actions of roughly 0.5%. Well, we'd kind of sort of do the same to women, right? We're, online, for example. So, we see all the quote unquote bad women, the ones that are trashing men, with the ridiculous demands and expectations, the triple sixes, it's quadruple sixes actually, and all that. But when you look at it, that's probably about 10, maybe 15% of the female population. So it's, like Lindsay and I point them out because they make it so easy for us. But the reality is, though, they are the minority by a wide margin. The problem is they're a very vocal minority and they're heard, right? And one of the arguments I often make to women is there needs to be more Lindsay, Sarah Eatons, the list is endless, out there calling other women out, because I can do it till the cows come home. They're not going to listen to me. If Lindsay speaks, she's going to get quadruple the attention from a woman that I will, and quadruple the hate, by the way. Let me add that in there. So it's, again, we're trying to make people aware and take the gender out of a lot of these issues. And that's why they hate is the paradigm. Ooh, we had a little drop there for a second. What was that? I think we're good still, right? Everybody can see me. So yeah, that was my take on that. Any final thoughts on that one?
Well, I think it's a little bit unique in the way that the bad actors among women and the bad actors among men are treated. So the bad actors among men are universally reviled. Good men call them out despite what women say. Good men call bad men out all the time. In fact, we have an entire justice system and a whole crap ton of laws going back thousands of years to hold bad men accountable by good men, by society. The same is not true of women. You were talking about me and Sarah Eaton and Aaron, who we talked to yesterday. We are far and few in between. There is a certain amount of complicity in silence, allowing bad actors to speak for the majority of us. And men, by and large, do not let bad men speak for them. They will sit there and go, oh, no, I don't associate myself with that. I don't agree with that. You need to sit down and be quiet. And nobody should listen to you. No one should take you seriously. Women don't do that. Generally speaking, we will not agree with these women that are trashing men, but we won't say anything either. We'll keep our mouth shut because we don't want to rock the boat. And in doing that, we give credence and weight to what these women are saying. And that's why we are in the position we are now, where the pendulum has swung so far to man-hating, is because no one, when these people started talking, everyone was like, oh, I don't want to like upset her. And I'm like, look, if she's spouting out horrible things, why would you care about upsetting her? It's like if someone is saying death to all, insert group here. Why would you care if you're insulting or hurting those people's feelings? They deserve to be knocked off their pedestal and told that what you're saying is not going to be tolerated.
The trolls are out. So
I haven't looked at a couple.
There's one just railing about churches, so we'll give him a little time out until he grows up. Along those same lines, a question came in from DR Hellcat, which is a real quick question. It's very similar along the lines. Why would a girl send her boyfriend to fight a guy who's done nothing wrong? And you just looked at her. This happened to me 2 weeks ago when I was attacked by a girl's boyfriend. It goes right into what you were talking about earlier. Women can manipulate guys to do things for them, right?
Right. So she can't physically take you, and she knows that. So she sends her blunt force object to go take you on for her. And it doesn't, in that gentleman's mind, to be fair to that gentleman who probably came after you, she probably spun some horrible yarn about how horrible you were so that he felt justified in doing that. Women have been doing that. Women have been doing that for centuries. Mm-hmm. There's tons of men that are in prison now because their, tiny 5 foot nothing of a wife or girlfriend started a fight that she couldn't finish. Mm-hmm. And he either had to come bail her out, or she just weaponized her male companion, her male brother, father, boyfriend, even sons in some cases. Mothers will weaponize their sons to protect themselves.
There are a lot of men in prison for this exact thing, right? Protecting a woman based on what she told them. And they come to find out later on, well, wait a minute, what she told me wasn't true, right? But that's not going to change either a murder conviction or assault and battery or whatever, right? And that's why I've had conversations with men in groups about this, where this has come up, like, um, how do we deal with it? And the truth is, you can't sit there and tell her she's lying, because there's a price to be paid for doing that also. But you need to take everything with a grain of salt. I always tell guys, take a step back, right? She's up in her feels. She's emotional. And I've seen this, by the way, with my own wife, who's one of the very good ones, right? But, somebody gets in her grill, she gets mad, and then she starts looking at me because she is 4 foot nothing, right? And she knows I'll be there to protect her, but there's a way to do it without going and beating someone up, right? Very long time ago with my ex-wife, we were at an amusement park and we were waiting for one of the roller coaster rides, and this woman cut in front of my wife in a very long line, and my wife made a very nasty remark to her, right? But she deserved it. Well, she went and got her boyfriend all riled up because he wasn't there, but he showed up. So then he starts in, and I just kind of stepped in between my ex and him and said, we're not going there. But we never came to blows or anything because I kept my cool. And that's where I think guys need to take ownership for their part in the play, if you will. Their role in it is, yes, the responsibility falls on the woman for getting it to that point, but it's also on the man to make sure it doesn't go further than that, right? And I'm not saying you don't believe her, you don't protect her, but that doesn't mean you go and try and kill somebody or beat them alive because she says he dishonored her. This isn't the Knights of the Round Table. And the problem is so many guys do that, and then they're the ones that end up in prison. That's why the stats are so skewed in a lot of cases too, right? When you look at the IPV stats, if she gets somebody else to unalive her husband, that does not count. And it happens a lot, right? So that doesn't count in the stats. It counts as him committing it. And that's why the stats are all BS. And it's a very, I obviously I lay the blame on both because I think men need to be the calmer, the voice of reason, if you will, in those situations, because it happens a lot.
Well, also, it's you're responsible for your own actions.
Exactly.
So if someone is trying to use you as a weapon, I'm going to make sure that I'm actually being weaponized. I do that with my children. I've had my children come to me and say, well, so and so is being mean to me, or even between my two children, because I have two boys. Mom, eldest is being my gremlin. My youngest will come to me and go, brother's being mean to me, and I'm like, is he, or did you start it? Like, is his being mean to you a reaction to something you did to him? Or is it something that, he just out of the blue decided to be, horrible to his little brother? Because I somehow doubt that. And usually it's a reaction rather than a just off the cuff decided to be mean. And so if you get involved with that, the same thing is true. Like, make sure that you're actually protecting her and not enabling her. Because in many cases, the men who get in trouble and pay the price for women, they didn't protect them. They were enabling them. There's a big difference.
Yeah, there is. And it goes back to voice of reason, which is what you're talking about, right? We have to understand there's two sides to every story. And yes, you want to believe your significant other, to use a term, but you also need to understand that sometimes emotions override reality. And it goes both ways. It's not just women doing it. Men do too, right? I mean, think about road rage. Some guy just got arrested for shooting at somebody over a road rage incident. Really? Now he's looking at 10 to 20 in prison because somebody cut him off in traffic. Really? Now, I'm not going to say there haven't been times I've been cursing somebody out, But I'm not going to pull a gun on somebody because they cut me off in traffic. I mean, that's just ridiculous. But I can surmise based on, the reporting on it. And again, it's news reporting, but he probably just lost his cool and stopped thinking. Right. And it happens. And I get that. That's human nature, but that's where collectively we need to take a step back. And it's both men and women with that. All right. Next question. And I can answer this one, but I'm going to give you first shot, Lindsay. So Derek, what is it about personal trainers that lots of women find appealing? Like, for example, Tom Brady's ex-wife, that would be Giselle, right after the divorce. No, it was before she was cheating. Started dating her jujitsu instructor. So I am a personal trainer, so I can give very much an answer on this, but I would much rather let Lindsay go first.
Whether women realize it or not, biologically, we look for the man who can provide the most for us and to protect us. So that is why physical trainers or, anything like that gets a lot of the attention. For example, my husband looks like a big teddy bear on the surface, but as Dan can attest, he is large and he is also in the military and is an expert marksman, according to the Air Force. He could protect me.
Him and I are going to have a shoot off.
You have to come visit me for that.
We're working on it.
4th of July. Anyway, but
I am not coming to Texas in the middle of summer.
Anyway, like that's one of the big draws for why, women will go and they will do that is they see its protection. I saw someone down in the comments say that her husband was neglecting her. And why? Was she worth neglecting? Like, if he's neglecting her, talk to him about it. Don't cheat on him.
So we're going to justify cheating? Okay. So every guy that says his wife was neglecting him, fair game for him to cheat?
Like, that's fair. Like, if she's neglecting him, his needs, if she's...
There you go, guys. Just say you feel neglected. You're good to cheat.
And you're good to cheat. And that is sex, by the way, because that is an absolute emotional need, whether women say it or not. So if justification for her cheating on her husband is he's not fulfilling her emotional needs, well, men experience emotion through the medium of physicality. So therefore, every woman who's overtold, I have a headache, I have a headache, I have a headache, my back hurts, that is justification for her husband to cheat. Good to know.
You know who says things like that? People who
women who cheat.
Yeah, women who cheat. So let me kind of give you my take on this as a personal trainer of 40 odd years. I think there's a couple dynamics with it, and it's not necessarily physical. A lot of people just assume it's physical. It's not. The number of women who have become attracted to me, and you see what I look like. I am certainly not, a movie star. Dozens over the years. I think a lot of it is when you're a good trainer, you have conversations with people while you're working out with them, right? People spill their guts to me. To this day, I mean, the people I train now, I know everything that's going on in their life, good, bad, indifferent. It's part of the job, actually. Personal trainers are more shrinks than anything else, believe it or not. A good one.
Personal trainers, bartenders, and hairdressers.
Yeah. I mean, it's like if there's something wrong in their life, I'm going to hear about it, right? Or something good. So there's in a matter of speaking, there's a connection there that they might not be getting elsewhere, potentially with their husband, for example, right? Or vice versa. Because I know female trainers, same thing happens, and everybody assumes it's physical. It's not. It could be. I'm not going to say it's not, but majority of the time, I think it's more a case of there's that connection. Because as a trainer, when you're working with someone, depending on what I'm training them on, if it's powerlifting, for example, we may have 5 minutes between the sets, right? And that when you have that amount of time, you're just not going to sit there and do this. You're just having conversations, hey, what'd you do this week? Blah, 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 blah. So it creates a form of intimacy, really. And you'll see this, by the way, even in group settings, because I've done group fitness as well, where I'd have, let's say, 15 people in the room. But even then, even though I'm not paying individual attention to them, there have been instances. My wife has had it happen to her. both men and women, by the way, because she's a trainer. She's had women fall for her. Okay. And I think that's the biggest thing. I also think there's a little bit of, I'll call it a power dynamic, although I'm hesitant to do that because then people will twist it negative. But if as a trainer, you're in control of that session, or you should be if you're any good. So women respond to that, right? They want the man to be a leader. And I think that comes into play also. I think it's more the quote unquote intimacy side, but I will tell you, it happens a lot. There is not a trainer I know, not one, that hasn't had it happen to them. More often, more than once. And, it's a line as a trainer you should never cross. Unfortunately, I know a few who have, more than a few. I've had employees who did it and they were fired immediately. I terminated them on the spot. That's not going to happen in my gyms, right? More than once it happened. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You're gone. And we made that clear when we hired them. There will be no, you want to date, that's one thing, right? But you're not going to have affairs and stuff like that in my gym. All right. And if they decided to date, then I would say, look, they can't be your client anymore, or they can't use, if you're running group fitness, they can't come to your class anymore because there's a problem with that. Right. But that's where my mindset with it is because, like I said, I've had it happen. I don't know how many times, and it's a difficult situation because, again, more so now than ever, you get the false allegations. So if you reject her, what's she going to do?
So I want to touch a little bit more. This is not quite a question, but the lovely young woman in the comments who was talking about he was neglecting her. And then she commented back that, what makes me think that they didn't talk about it? They may very well have talked about it, but the correct response to "you are neglecting me" is not to, "well, I'm going to cheat on you." The correct response is to divorce him. End the relationship. If he is not fulfilling your relationship needs, if the relationship is dead, then you end the relationship. You have this wonderful, marvelous, lovely thing called integrity,
or lack thereof,
and you don't cheat on the person, because then you're just as bad as they are. They broke the terms of the relationship by neglecting you within it, and you broke the terms of the relationship by seeking intimacy, either emotional or physical, outside of it. So congratulations, you're just as bad. You broke the terms of the agreement. So the correct adult thing to do, ladies, is that if he is not fulfilling your needs, or you feel like he's not fulfilling your needs, let him go. Divorce him. Don't be horrible back. Like, two wrongs do not make a right, and an eye for an eye just makes the whole world blind. Congratulations, you're just as bad as he is.
Well, I think some of it too, in that particular situation, and I'm basing it on reporting I've seen, not anything either Giselle or Brady said, okay, which is, he was an NFL quarterback. People do not realize the dedication they have to have. And Brady is a whole other level above other quarterbacks. They leave the house at 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning. They're at the facility for 12 to 13, 14 hours a day. They come home, they watch film, then they go to bed, and they rinse and repeat that basically 6 days a week. Obviously, game day is a little different, right? That's their life basically for 6 months out of the year. So the wives need to understand that. That's part of the job, if you will. And that's basically any NFL player, but more so the quarterbacks, and somebody like Brady, who I do think is the GOAT. People may disagree with me, and that's fine. And I'm not a Patriots fan or a Bucks fan. Okay.
Well, I also think that it's a little bit, it's not just that particular realm, that women, we thrive on attention, but we pick a man for whatever reason, say in this case, he's, wealthy. We don't necessarily understand the dedication it takes to fulfilling that potential. Like, for example, my husband, Mr. Squirrel, is in the military. And for the first 15 years of our married life, or just life together, he was gone at the drop of a hat. And I had to adjust to that when, before we had children, it was a little bit easier. But then after we had children, daddy would be on the other side of the world for, weeks at a time. He would be on missions that fly around the world. He would, get home and have no idea what day it was because he crossed the international date line twice. And I knew that going in. I knew that's what he wanted to do. I knew what the job was going to entail. I knew what our marriage might look like. Does that mean that it was hard? Or does that mean that it was easy and it wasn't, hard at times? It was absurdly hard at times. But because I understood that, I didn't make him pay or suffer for a choice that I knowingly accepted. I made a choice to love my husband continuously. And I feel like a lot of women don't understand the kind of dedication that it takes within certain careers.
Well, let me ask you something along those lines, Lily, because it's a fact that many military wives cheat.
Yes.
Without question. I mean, you know it better than I do, right? I have always been under the assumption of exactly what you said. They know what they're getting into when they marry a military man, right? And the majority of the time, they're probably marrying them after they're in the military. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but I think the majority it's post even boot camp, let's say, right? Yours was a little different, but even then, knowing that, like you said, they should know what they're getting into. I assume they do, but yet cheating is rampant in the military. And by the way, yes, I know military men cheat too. Okay. Before anybody jumps on me in the comment, but like there already are, military men are walking red flags. Well, military wives are too. So, it's funny how they immediately, as soon as you mention the women, they come back. Yeah, but, it cracks me up. They just cannot allow us to hold a woman accountable. They want to excuse the woman and blame the man. Like we saw earlier with, well, he neglected her. But it's interesting. The question I have for you is, how do they justify in their minds the cheating then? Because they should know what they're walking into, right?
In many cases, women romanticize men in the military. They think it's like World War I or World War II. He'll go off for a little bit, he'll come home, and it'll be gaga and rainbows. And it's also selfishness. It's attention. It's, you're not paying attention to me. You're not giving me the attention that I think I need. Meanwhile, like in my husband's case, Mr. Squirrely bends over backwards for us. He works his ass off so that we can have a better life, that we can have nice things, that we are all taken care of. And I would never, ever, ever take that for granted. So if I'm feeling neglected, one, I usually tell myself, you're being ridiculous, because I know he's not doing it on purpose. The number of things my husband has to keep in mind, the things that he's juggling, when he was, of course, in the military. And then now, even now on the civilian side, because I'm sure I can see him.
The level they will go to try and blame men to avoid holding women accountable is mind-boggling. So somebody said a lot of military men hook up with men too. That would be Amber Davis over on TikTok, because Amber can't allow a discussion about holding women accountable, probably because she's a cheater. Right. So she's trying to cover her tracks by saying, well, men hook up with men. Girlfriend, if that's your response, if that's all you got, sit down.
That doesn't happen as much as you think. I mean, I'm sure it happens
occasionally. Or it's some kind of sick fantasy that she wants to believe, right? I mean, it's hilarious that they immediately
she's
go to
probably one of those people who thinks that men aren't allowed to be friends with other men without
one. Now she's saying, I've never cheated in my life. Well, Amber, I don't believe you. I think you have. Okay. See how that works? I can throw out things too, and they should be automatically believed. Hold your. I'm telling on myself. I love this stuff. See, this is, again, you notice she can't. This is what happened last week, Lindsay, right? They can't counter the argument, so they resort to hurling things like that. Well, men are cheating in the barracks with other men. Okay, and why is that your business if they are?
Even if they were, that does not excuse women cheating on their husbands. Two wrongs do not make it right.
But in her mind, it justifies it. Amber, how would you know? Have you been in a men's military barracks? Because if you have, there's a serious problem there.
Around the gate. They
um,
wouldn't even in
let her just rant and
whatever.
rave because
Okay,
obviously
so
she is a classic female excusist, and almost always in that case, they're the ones guilty of it. Go
so
on.
what I was saying about my husband is that if I do feel like I'm starting to like you're not paying attention to me, normally I tell myself, okay, slow down for a minute because I know I know he's not doing it maliciously. By the way, the same thing has happened to me when I get caught up sometimes in my advocacy and whatnot. There are times when my husband will come to me and say, "Hey, you've been really distant lately. You haven't been paying attention to me and the boys. Can we have you back, please?" And I always feel guilty when he tells me that because it was never my intention to neglect my family. It's just sometimes you get tunnel vision. And, so it goes both ways. And in many cases, I will see a woman sit there and say, well, he's neglecting me. He's not doing all these things. And in my experience, typically the woman checked out first. So she stopped doing something for him. And then I'm purposely not looking. She stopped doing something for him, started checking out, started becoming, whatever, and he eventually caught up. Or if it is the other way around and the guy checked out first, like, why? Why did he check out? Like,
Right.
is it truly because he's a horrible person? Because in generally speaking, if there's a problem with the relationship, both people have some stake in it. It is not 100% one person's fault and the other person is completely innocent.
True.
I'm not saying it's 50-50, but it might be, 40-60 or 30-70. And relationships are work.
Yeah, but they don't want to have to put the work in. So, just to address a couple other comments, because I'm dying here. I mean, Toe Bean thinks I'm triggered and all upset and angry and foaming at the mouth because I'm literally laughing my ass off at this. And then Amber says I'm projecting. Well, Amber, if I'm projecting, what are you doing, darling? Because you're projecting onto what happens in military barracks that you don't, in fact, know is true. So who's the projector? And I'm done with her. So it's just funny how they just have to go there. They cannot handle accountability and responsibility, and that's what they go to. All right, so have you been watching YouTube for questions? Because
I've gotten a couple of them.
All right, go to the next one if you've got one.
Thanos Thor made a comment. He said, nice name, by the way. Change the current laws that favor all women and you will change society and how they behave. Easy problem solved. You can throw all the logic at it you want. Words mean nothing, never have. Well, that's what we were kind of talking about earlier, is that it is the male biological prerogative to defend women because, as I will always come back to this, without women, there are no children, and without children, the species dies. So men are biologically wired to protect women for that reason. And that's why we have a whole bunch of laws that protect women. The problem is that you cannot, on one hand, scream equality for women, and then sit there and go, except when it comes to consequences. You're either equal or you aren't. So I argue often that some of the most misogynistic people, and I do not use that word lightly, I think it is overused. So if I use it, I'm using it correctly. The most misogynistic people I meet are feminists and other women who want to excuse our behavior and or lessen the severity of our consequences by virtue of the fact that we're female. I'm like, well, then that makes you a misogynistic witch, because your belief that by virtue of our, genitalia being internal rather than external, that somehow makes us more or less human or more moral or ethically superior is, congratulations, you're both misogynistic and misandrist at the same time. That takes skill.
That takes special skill. But yet too many of them are, right? So question came up. I think it's for you, Lindsay, but it might be for me. Yaya wants to know, how long have you been married?
How
We
long
can both
have
answer.
I been married?
Too long. Oh, there we go.
19 years this year. In September, we'll be married.
Yay, you.
But we've been together for 21 years because I married my first boyfriend.
Yeah. So I've been with my wife for 15 years and we've been married for 13. So I don't know which one of us that was directed at, but there he goes. And then Toe Bean just is so desperate for attention. He's a lonely little simp boy. He says, I'm very emotional for a man. Because men aren't allowed to have emotions. Meanwhile, he's spewing hate and vitriol, trying to get his emotions and attention, and defending men cheating. We never defended men cheating.
We just said that women cheat too.
Yeah, and that's how you twisted it, right? So get all up in your fifis there, Toe. It's okay. We understand you need attention.
See, this is what bothers me is that, okay, two things can simultaneously be true at the same time. The grass is green, the sky is blue. Those two statements do not contradict or invalidate the other. Women cheat, men cheat. That is, and holding women accountable for their cheating does not somehow give men who cheat a free pass. Like,
you literally said men cheat in the military. Yeah.
Yes, and
again, people like Toe Bean, their entire life is dependent on stirring trouble up so they can get attention. And it's just the way it is.
See,
I get it. I get it. You're lonely. You're sad. You've got mommy down in your basement cutting your, crusts off your peanut butter and jam, which is jelly sandwiches. And maybe she forgot today and you're a little upset. Do what you got to do, dude. Inky Boy wants to know, are you live on other platforms? I might follow you on there. Yes, we are.
Yes, we are.
Facebook and YouTube are the two. We kind of rotate through some other ones. Today I put it to X. We've been it on Insta, which went nowhere. We used to be on Insta a lot, but Instagram just doesn't like us. And I've tried Rumble, that didn't do so well. So anyway, so that's that one. So yeah, the best place to follow us, because TikTok has become a complete shit show. It is dying. We had this conversation 2 weeks ago, right?
It's pretty much hemorrhaging.
TikTok is done. It's finished. YouTube is our primary, and then we're on Facebook as well. So make sure you follow us there. By the way, both of us have YouTube channels and Facebook pages where we put way more stuff up than we could ever put on TikTok, because people like Toe have to go and report us because their fifis get hurt. So all right, next question that you might have. I know. I mean, these comments are great, guys. The problem we have, and I was talking with my buddy Steve, we can't put the TikTok comments up on the screen for everyone to see for two reasons. One, TikTok will not feed over to where we send everything else. And two, we would probably get canceled on the other channels for all the crap that TikTok has.
So Toe Bean just reminds me of the stupid song, like the parody of Jolene, but with like a cat's feet. Toe Bean, Toe Bean, Toe Bean, Toe Bean.
All right, let it go. You're giving him too much attention.
No, but it's okay. So, and on the subject of being not very Christ-like, honey, I'm pagan. I don't give two shits about Christ.
And I'm agnostic, so yeah. Loved by No One asked the question, what's your opinion on women weaponizing the law as a defense for their cheating, which we kind of sort of have touched on?
I mean, yeah. So I would like to see our justice system do a lot of things, but one, recognize that in some other cases, they recognize that manipulation is a thing. So like if someone is manipulated into committing, say, fraud, or manipulated into breaking some of the lesser laws, that is taken into account into sentencing. Like, yeah, you still did something wrong, but you were kind of falsely led into this premise, and then the person who manipulated you into it is often cases also liable. I would like to see the same in, say, domestic violence and other things, because in many cases, assault, for example, how many guys are in prison because their wife or girlfriend or sister set them off like a pit bull to go beat someone up for her?
We talked about earlier, right?
Yes, it's yes, you still made the decision to go do that and should be held accountable for it, but the person who set you up to do it should also be held accountable.
Well,
Um,
let me just throw something out that I've been aware of for a while, but I don't think we've ever talked about on the show, which is along these lines, right?
mhm.
So in North Carolina, where I'm based, did you know this, Lindsay? That if you are the victim of a cheating spouse, you can sue the person they're cheating with
I did not.
for damages because there's a case going through the courts right now. I'm going to be doing a video on it, right? In this case, it's a woman suing another woman, and I forget the terminology they use, but basically they're holding her accountable for breaking up the family, right? So she can sue for damages, and it can go either way, right? If a wife is cheating, the husband can sue the wife's boyfriend. What do you think on that? I am 100% in favor of this.
I think it would also depend. I think it would depend on their level of knowledge. Like, if the partner or the other woman or other man, for example, did not know.
That's okay. That's fair. I'll agree with you there.
But if you knowingly enter a relationship with someone who has a partner or a family or whatever, then yeah, you share a part of the responsibility for ending that family or hurting that family, or
Mhm.
because especially if there's children involved. Especially if there's children involved.
Yeah, and I haven't read the entire law yet. I did download it to read through it, and I've only just kind of skimmed it. I do think that provision is in there in a manner of speaking, right? Where it's got to be knowing, because there are instances where they don't know, right? But if you knowingly do it, then under North Carolina law, you can sue the aggrieved party can sue the aggriever, if you will. And I got to do a video on it, but I just love that. Right. I think either way, it doesn't matter who's the cheater. If the man's cheating, sue the girl that he's cheating with. If it's the wife cheating, sue the guy she's cheating with. I think accountability comes into play there. But the only negative I have to it in my mind is um, a lot of times cheating is short term,
Mhm.
like one and done type thing. And again, I don't excuse it at all. I'm 100% against it, but I think that's a little different than, say, breaking up a marriage and going and living with someone, right? Um, to a degree, I mean, it's degrees, I guess is what I'm putting it. But again, I have not read the full law yet, so it may be in there in some form, and I just haven't seen it yet. And I'll be doing a video on it. But I just love that thought because the fact of the matter is, it happens a lot more than people want to admit, and I truly believe it's pretty much equal, right? Women are way better than men at hiding it. Like
There's
we are amateurs compared to women.
there's also different degrees of cheating. So when we typically think of cheating, we think of physical intimacy. I argue that emotional cheating or emotional infidelity um is the same thing, because when you form a relationship with someone, you're basically saying you are my person and we are going to be affectionate within this, whether it's marriage or long-term relationship or whatever. So seeking romantic intimacy in either form, be it physical or emotional, outside of the bounds of that relationship, it counts. And women will be very quickly often go, well, I was just talking to a guy, nothing happened, nothing physical happened. But which you were cheating. You were cheating in your heart because you were giving all of your attention, all of your emotional emotional intimacy to someone else outside of the relationship. And when you look at it that way, I am so sure. I see.
He's so angry. Look at him turn red. Well, Koala, let me clue you in on a little something there, darling. One, I'm red because I'm being treated for skin cancer. Okay. I have to put a cream on my head every single day, which turns me lobster red. but you are wonderful going and making an assumption and then making a false
allegation.
allegation based on it. There you go, people. There's a false allegation for you right then and there.
But I will go. This is the one of the many hills that I will stand and fight on. Is that
I love it.
when
I just they are so ignorant and so ridiculously moronic with how they go. They body shame. That's body shaming, first of all. Okay. Second of all, she knows nothing about me or what I'm dealing with, right? But she jumped to a conclusion and made a false allegation. That's why I say there's false allegations by the millions being made by women. Okay. There's one of them, people. There's a perfect example of it. Because I'm not angry in the least. In fact, I'm laughing my ass off, if you notice. Sorry that I'm a little red. I can't help it. I could say the name of the cream. It's fluorescent. I can't, even my doctor couldn't say it. Okay. And by the way, this stuff is extremely toxic to dogs. That's why you won't see the puppies today, because I can't be near them. But yeah, it's hilarious. Yeah, I'm blushing. Okay. Sure, darling. Anyway, go back to your thought. I'm sorry.
My thought. Once we add in emotional infidelity and recognize that it is just as pervasive, I argue that women cheat more than men.
Well, let me ask you this, Lindsay, because along those lines, because let's use you and I as an example, because we share things, right? We talk, but I wouldn't consider what we converse even remotely close to an emotional affair. We might vent on each other, right? About things. We haven't done it as much lately as we have in the past, but it's usually stuff like dealing with TikTok. Like that was probably the one thing you and I dealt with the most. You know, we either a ban or we, had to deal with something. And yeah, emotions are flowing from both of us. That to me is not even remotely close to an emotional affair. What would you define it as? To me, it would be if you're, I'll give you my line in the sand, if you will. If you're talking about anything to do with your existing relationship with someone else, that's my line in the sand. So if I were to talk to Lindsay about a problem I had with my wife, that's a no-go to me.
So from a woman's standpoint, if I were to go to any man and talk about something that I would normally go to my husband to talk about. Now, like I just came back from New Mexico, where I visited with my dad, and I did talk about my relationship with my husband in the sense that, or just everything in general, because he's my dad. Like,
yeah, that's different. That's dad.
Yeah, but that's different.
That's different.
That's the same thing. If I would ever talk to you, that would be because you're a father figure to me as well. So that would be more seeking advice than.
Yeah, that's kind of the way I would view it
replacement. Too. So if I'm talking to another man about my hopes and dreams within, like, I'm looking for emotional support, or I'm looking for financial support, or I'm looking for any of the kind of support that my husband is, intimate emotional support, that would count as emotional infidelity.
Okay, I agree with you there.
And that's the line. If it starts like when talking about, issues with my kids, like, like I want them to, bear the burden with me of something that I'm struggling with my children, which is sharing parenthood.
Now, see, I don't know if I agree with you on that one. Like, if I'm having a problem with my kid, let's say, and I go to you, just to use an example, and say, hey, I'll use Rudy, who's a puppy, not a kid. He's my little boy. But let's say, he was a young man, a child, and I came to you and said, hey, I'm dealing with this. What are your thoughts? And that's advice, right? I think we'd agree there. But then I went next step and going, oh, this is doing, and I just vented. Like I got it all up in my fifis, do you separate that, or do you think it's the same?
So there's a difference between advice and just venting and looking for someone to share the burden of parenthood with you.
What do you mean by that? I guess that's where I'm confused.
Well, so try to describe this.
And I understand it's a gray area, right? I mean, there's no black and white here.
It can be kind of where it's my husband's job to bear the burden of difficulties with raising our children in that kind of very intimate, because it's there, he's the father. Like, we are equally responsible for our children and our growth and their growth and how well they turn out and all of that. If I go seeking that same support with someone else, that's past advice, it's validation, it's, I feel, horrible as a mother, I'm failing as all of this. And it is a very, very fine line between friendship and like romantic intimacy. The need is when you start feeling like your conversations are like the kind you would have with your partner over, like, in bed or at home or whatever. That's when you go, okay, maybe we've gone too far, I need to pull back. And to
Interesting.
Women sometimes will get closer to that line than they intend to, or they'll give off mixed signals. I'm autistic. I have a male friend that I got close to, and I did not realize how many mixed signals that I was giving. And when he pointed it out, he goes, I don't think you're doing this on purpose, and I go, holy shit. And but then I immediately turned back around and went and talked to Mr. Squirrely about it. I'm like, hey, and that's another thing, hiding it.
Well, that's
another thing, is hiding it.
Yeah, and that's where I was going to go with it, because as you know, and I think our regulars know, my best friend in the world is a female, right? I share everything with her. There are no boundaries between us. So, I mean, I just mentioned some of the medical things that I'm dealing with, and people who follow me privately or in my private groups know I'm dealing with some other issues too. I talk to her about all this stuff, even more so than I talk to my wife. And one of the reasons why is my wife gets emotional about it. And I'm not saying in a bad way, right? I'm her husband. She's worried about me. So she can't give me, for lack of a better term, logical feedback, right? Whereas my friend, I can go, here's what's happening. Like tomorrow I have to go see a neurosurgeon. I'm looking at potential surgery, all this stuff. And it's concerning because it's on my spinal cord. Okay. So, I've been talking with her, sharing things with her that my wife doesn't know. And it's not because I don't want to hide it from her. It's that she, and this, she would tell you this too, she gets too emotional about it, right? And it really, really upsets her. And I'm not faulting her in any way, shape, or form for that. It means she actually cares about me, right? But she also knows that I share everything with my friend. Well, some people would say, I think that I'm having a quote unquote emotional affair, but I don't see it that way. What do you think?
I think it comes down to the willingness to be transparent, even if you aren't transparent. Like, every single gentleman that I have ever spoken to, because I do a lot of not quite peer counseling because I'm not a registered whatever, just talking to someone. Or if I have male friends that, we talked about before, Mr. Squirrely knows about every single one of them. I will, and there's no hesitation if, he says, I'll say, I'm talking to so-and-so, he'll come like, which boyfriend are you talking to now? And I will hand him my phone.
Or dad.
Yeah, well, you're my dad, and Curtis is my brother. We fixed that right away. But like, I have no qualms about being transparent. Just because I have no qualms about it doesn't necessarily mean that he necessarily, because there's plenty of times like, would you like to know what we're talking about? He's like, I don't want to know. And
my wife does the same when I'm talking with my friend.
So it's not that he doesn't know because he decided I don't want to know. Not because I was unwilling to be.
He made the choice in that case. Right. And I think that's what separates it. It's an interesting topic because, again, I've had people say, well, you're having an emotional affair. There's nothing other than friendship between me and my friend. Right. And it never has been. I've known her 24-ish years, 25 years now. We are as close as can be without being a couple. Right. We would never survive as a couple. We would kill each other. Politically, we're exactly opposite of the spectrum. She is an avowed feminist, but an old school one. She hates new school feminism. She makes you and I look like wired to what the things that come out of her mouth. I am her on, but she will not come on because for a lot of reasons, but she's very camera shy. But it's interesting because I've had people say, you're having an emotional affair with her. Yet my wife knows everything. And she's like Mr. Squirrel is, right? I don't, she'll say, hey, have you talked to so-and-so? Yep. What'd you talk about? Oh, we were talking about this. Okay. Right. Another time I'll say to her, hey, I talked to so-and-so today. Yeah. And so what, I don't hide anything. If she wanted to see the conversation, she's more than willing to. She's listened in. And there's been times we've talked on the phone. My wife's sitting right next to me. Right. See, I think that's what separates it. It's when you're hiding it. Another where I would go is if you start talking about bedroom stuff, because I think somebody mentioned that in the comment, that's a big no-go, right? Or, you start telling each other you love each other. Now, love as a friend. I mean, I have friends that I love, right? But that's totally different. I think that's what separates it. But it is a slippery slope because, it can go from platonic to non very quickly. And that's, it's interesting how to just kind of explore that whole dynamic because everybody wants to make it black and white, and it is as gray can be, I think. So Steven, I'm a therapist, and my experience has taught me that infidelity is never about sex. It's about the other person is giving you something that's lacking in your marriage relationship. There it is from a therapist, and I couldn't agree more. It's rarely, I think, about the physical. I think occasionally it can be. There's just plain physical attraction, but I would say probably 99 out of 100 times it's you're trying to fill a need.
Well, not only that, but even on the physical infidelity side, a lot of it is I'll talk to guys who, they're going through divorce or something, and they fully admit they cheated.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll ask, well, why did you do it? And it's like, because, we had a dead bed. We hadn't, had, any, intimacy in, years.
So,
Are they looking to excuse their infidelity? No, they're trying to explain why it happened or give context as to why it happened. They fully admit they cheated and they fully admit that they shouldn't have done it, but still they were trying to fulfill a need that was lacking in their relationship. And despite what women sit there and say that men don't need sex, I disagree. I vehemently disagree because women are cerebral. We have emotional connection through conversation, staring at, in our eyes, spending time together. That's how women make emotional connections. Men are more physical. They make emotional intimacy through the medium of physicality. My husband tells me all the time, just hugging me is, he'll come up and just pick me up and hug me. And that's him being, emotionally connected to me. And if you take that away, yeah, they're going to seek that in someone else.
Yeah, it's like Steve just said in the comments over on YouTube. I have mixed feelings about your friendship, Dan. I know it's platonic, but I wouldn't blame your wife if she objected. If she objected, I wouldn't do it. That said, when I met my wife, I made it very clear that friendship means everything to me, right? I wouldn't be where I am today without her. I wouldn't be where I am today without my wife too, right? I mean, but it's totally separate. It's, and I get where people are confused by it because so many people believe a man and woman can't be friends without some sort of sexual component. I completely disagree with that. I have present company on the screen with me is a very dear friend that I care about. There's nothing sexual between us, never has been, never will be, right? So that's the proof right there. And I do think that men and women can be friends without the sexual component. Does it get complicated at times? Sure, I'll acknowledge that. But with my friend, we've never had that. We had the conversation early on, like, yeah, we would kill each other in a relationship. We would too. It would not last a month because we are very different in many, many ways. Where we're the same is we have a trust bond that cannot be broken. We may vehemently, and we have had knockdown, drag out on arguments about feminist stuff, right? But she respects me enough to hear me out. And I appreciate the hell, and vice versa. She's taught me stuff. And vice versa. That to me is the difference. But I understand, like, I'm not faulting Steve in any way. I understand where Steve's coming at it with, right? Now, if it ever crossed over, then I think that's a legit thing. And no, I would never hide it from my wife. I never did. I did probably within a week of meeting her. I told my wife about that relationship. And we're just good friends. She lives 2,000 miles from me. It's not like there's anything going to happen anyway, right? But yeah, I think it goes back to the belief that a lot of people have that men and women cannot be friends without some sort of sexual component. And I vehemently disagree with that. And living proof is looking at you right on the screen.
So I would like to point out that there's another lovely individual in our TikTok comment section who apparently came in on the wrong end of my talking about, physical infidelity. And I literally said that the guys who do it flat out admit that they shouldn't have done it and they knew what they were doing were wrong. I was simply trying to add context. And she said, and I quote, "Wow, I've been asking for years for needs that don't get up. Guess it's okay to cheat." Did you not hear a word I said, or did you just hear what you wanted to hear?
Bingo. That's how they always are. It's, again, she's twisting it to justify her cheating. If you actually look at it, right? Dollars a donut, she's already cheating. She's trying to justify it. But, we'll leave it at that. Interesting topic, though. And it's, one thing we haven't done, we got to do it real quick. We got to do the show the love thing, because it's been over an hour and we haven't done that. So if you haven't already, give us a little love, show us the hearts. If you're enjoying the show, subscribe or follow, depending on which platform you're on. Subscribe and follow are the same thing, people. I had somebody fighting with me about the difference between, because I usually say in my videos, subscribe. And somebody on TikTok was pissed that I didn't say follow. I'm like, really? That's the hill you want to die on? Really? People. Anyway, so yeah. So anyway, that's that. All right. Let's move on to another topic or question. You got anything, Lindsay, real quick? Nope. I like the shirt, sir. So for those of you that remember, that's my magpie. She went to heaven last August. She used to be in my videos all the time. And my wife got me this.
Actually, I'm going to duck out for just a minute. I have to go mom real quick. I will be
right back. Do we get to hear? Oh,
no, muted. I'm going to.
Oh, darn. We love that. All right. So let me kind of just go from there. I actually been paying attention more to TikTok than YouTube. So let me jump over there. And by the way, guys, I would love to hear your comments on the friendship thing, because I do think it's a genuine, really good topic, because I think there's a lot of misunderstanding. And I truly appreciate, I think it was Steve, who's the therapist, jumping in on that, because, it's infidelity crushes people. And I've been the victim of it. My first wife cheated on me. And when I found out I don't know that I changed, and I don't think I've ever, not recovered, that's not the right term, but ever forgotten it and how it made me feel. I guess that's it. Anyway, so if you've got other topics you want to jump, yeah, everybody wants you to leave the volume on, because we love hearing you yell. That one time you did it and forgot, that was like the best ever. Miss Sweet Innocent Little Lindsay went full mom. All right, we got about 20 minutes or so, guys. It's open mic, so if you have topics, questions, don't get too personal with them.
Comment on the cheating part.
Okay.
The idea that men and women cannot be friends without there being some kind of romantic thing, I think is actually a detriment, because then it creates a false dichotomy where women, especially or men especially, this happens to men more than women, is that if men are constantly told, well, men and women can't be friends without there being some kind of romantic thing, then if a woman is friendly towards him, he goes, oh, well, she must be interested in me.
That's a valid point. Really good one there, Linz. You're right.
And I've seen that quite often when I have had quite a few of examples of this when I'm talking to guys, because I'm in men's advocacy spaces. I'll get questions that start to be a little bit flirty, a little bit romantic, and I always open a new communication with, I'm married, right? Or if they ask me a question, or like I have to ask my husband or something, whatever, to let them know, hey, I'm married. I am not this is not this. And the thing I get told most is that, well, I couldn't be sure. I mean, I thought you might because you're nice to me. And I'm like, well, that's just a sad commentary in and of itself. And women predominantly, actually, we are the ones who push this idea that men and women can't be friends, because what happens so often when women get with a guy, they go, okay, you now have to cut out every female in your life so that it's just me. And women's insecurity has created this false dichotomy where we now, a couple generations later, truly think that men and women can't have meaningful friendships, which is unfortunate, I think, because men and women are meant to complement each other, both in the romantic sphere, but also friendships. There's things I've learned from my male friends. I have a male friend in on TikTok right now. His name is well, I call him TJ Otterton.
I know who you mean. He was in the comments earlier.
A logical thinker. And I learn things from him. He learns things from me. There is no romance there at all.
And that's an interesting point right there, Lindsay, right? That's what's missing in the communication gap, right? Is having that type of feedback, right? Which, like I have with my friend, and I have other female friends too, that will, some of them watch my content. Like one in particular, she watches my content and she'll go, "Oh, Dan, you're full of shit on that one." Okay, why? And I get her feedback. She can do it without spewing the hate and emotion. We don't always agree, but I hear her out and it gives me feedback that I value, right? We're friends. I think that you're nailing it right there. Is not having that is a problem for both men and women.
And not only that, but it also has led to the gender gap, so to speak, because if the only way men and women are socially allowed to interact is within the romantic sphere, then that means that women aren't used to interacting with men outside of that sphere.
Mm-hmm.
So they misunderstand them constantly because the only male communication they have is within a relationship, and the communication you have in a relationship between partners is way different than like you have between friends. Although I still maintain the belief that if the day my husband is nice to me, flirting with me, if he's sweet, something is wrong.
He screwed up somehow, right?
He screwed up somehow. But I think that we've lost that. So that means that it's even more difficult to communicate between the sexes because we're only allowed to communicate effectively in one narrow sphere. And that leads to tons of miscommunications.
Or assumptions, to your point earlier, right? Is that, when you said earlier that you think women are the ones that drive the men and women can't be friends thing. And it's, I always make the argument that women will string a guy along in the friendship zone because she wants to get things from him that you would normally get in a romantic relationship without giving up the goods, if you know what I mean, right? And men fall for it. And that's on us. I don't blame the woman. I blame the men for that, right? We should know that. I mean, if you voluntarily are doing it and you're doing it, that's one thing. But when you're being strung along and you got your blinders on, well, if I just keep being a good little boy and doing everything she wants, maybe she'll want me. A woman knows within 5 minutes whether she'll ever sleep with you. They know. And that's not me saying that. That is countless women saying that to me. Countless. Okay. They know. So if they're, kind of skirting it a little bit, keeping you in the friend zone, but stringing it along, that's a totally different conversation than the one we're having, right? Whereas it's just friends. And that.
Well, I also think that it's also possible, and this is pure speculation, but I have observed enough of this to think that there may be a point to it, is that while men can have a friend zone, it's not as prevalent in men as it is women. And because women do it with their male friends, I think they project that action onto men and assume that, well, we have friend zones. So therefore, any female that the male is friends with, he's doing the same thing she is, or that other female has him in a friend zone. And that is the other thing that women do universally. We have two horrible traits, and this will the hill I die on. We are vindictive as hell, and we have a projection problem. We have a very bad habit of thinking that because we do it, or if it's universally true or not universally true, but generally true to the female species, that it must be true to the men as well. And I hate to break it to you, ladies, but men are not women and women are not men. And our brains work differently. Our brain scans look different. You can scan someone's brain and you can go, that's a male brain or that is a female brain. So this idea that men think the same way we do, therefore we must guard them. It's insidious in nature because it's led to a lot of problems.
Yeah, I mean, just to point out, I would go read the book Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, which I'm actually rereading right now for the first time in probably 20 years. Great book, and I make nothing by saying that. I'm dying to interview him, which Warren was going to set me up at one point because Warren and him are good friends. I'm going to reach out to Warren again. See, I'm just triggering things. I mean, it's Dr. Warren Farrell.
Well, so someone said in the comments, if he's sweet, something's wrong. One of the biggest problems right there, being sweet is normal. Okay, my husband is saccharinely sweet to me sometimes. But we've also known each other for a very, very long time. And the day he's actually nice to me, like Hallmark nice is
yeah. What's going on? Yeah.
This is the man who will wait for me to come out of my hall bathroom at the top of the stairs and grab my head and have me shriek and fall on my ass and laugh his ass off while our children cackle in the background. And that counts as flirting with mommy and daddy. I will also spray him. He came up behind me and did the whip thing with the towel.
Oh yeah.
While I was washing dishes. So I took the hose from the sink and proceeded to spray the crap out of him. We ended up having a water fight in the middle of the kitchen. That counts as flirting for us.
Yeah, I do that with the hose on my wife sometimes outside. But yeah, it's interesting. So, all right, we got time for some more questions. Let's see. Steve just asked, did I watch the Oprah stream with Scott Galloway? No, I have not. Can you send it to me, Steve? Because I wasn't even aware of it, to be honest with you. Steve is awesome. He sends me lots of stuff that I check out. And it's funny, Steve, just so you know, side note for everybody, and I'm going to do a shameless plug if I may right now. Lindsay kind of alluded to it earlier, but Lindsay and I recorded a podcast episode where we were guests on Circle of White Light with Alan's the one that runs the podcast, but Erin was on with us. She's a terrific woman. That podcast has been released. It has gone live. So if you go look up Circle of White Light, I believe it's on Rumble. I'm not sure on YouTube. Rumble. I think it's Rumble. Check it out. We had such a good time, didn't we? We're going to be on there again. We'll probably bring them on with us at some point. But it was we covered a lot of topics similar to what we're talking about now. And it was interesting because we heard both sides. And it was funny afterward we got done with it. Because what was funny was we were talking about accountability at one point. And I was basically holding the men accountable. and the two ladies, Lindsay included, and Erin, were like, what are you doing? It's like, no, wood chipper them. We were talking about Harvey Weinstein, right? And I'm like, yeah, wood chipper, legs first, make him know he's alive while he's doing it, right? And they're like, what? It's very interesting podcast. Please go check it out. Give them some love. Again, it's Circle of White Light. I know it's on Rumble. I'm not sure if it's on YouTube also. And I'm trying to remember Erin's channel. Steve, help me out on that. Or Lindsay, if you know which one it is. I
can't remember, but
I'm blanking and I feel horrible that I am. Check her out also. Steve, I know Steve will know it. So Steve, drop it in the comments. And everybody's jumping on saying Galloway is so out of touch. I'm not a fan of Galloway at all. I think he's another Tate, to be honest with you. And you guys know I don't like Tate. Interesting though. I got to say this about Pearl. I'm noticing a flip on her
Really?
lately. Little bit better, not great, but a little bit better. She's being more forthcoming, shall we say. They want to know if it'll be loaded to my YouTube account. I will probably do shares on my YouTube account. I got to watch copyright. I think they would give me permission to load it to mine, but I don't like doing that to other creators because then people watch it on mine and they don't get the credit, the hour watch, and the money. So I'd rather you go watch it on their channel. So that's that. All right. What you got? I know you're reading comments, so go ahead.
Someone said that unless the woman is a men's type of advocate, they shouldn't be friends with them. I disagree. I think you should actually, because, well, first of all, I'm a big proponent of diversity of thought is the only diversity that matters. You can have wildly different ideologies or beliefs as long as you are respectful enough towards the other person and allow them to have a differing opinion or view or belief. You can be friends with them. I actually have a long-term friend who is, believe it or not, a feminist. Now she's more old school than, the ones now, just like Dan's friend, although she's from my generation. The elder millennial, I maintain that there's two different kinds. But she respects me enough to hear me out, and I respect her enough to hear her out. And if we're going to argue with each other, we're going to argue the facts, not attack each other. It's the same thing. I have friends that are have wildly different religious beliefs than I do. My best friend in where I live, my best female friend, is a staunch Catholic. I'm not Catholic, and we can discuss world religions or her religion or whatever, and not attack each other or not say, well, you're stupid for not believing what I believe, or you're not. And if you only ever surround yourself with people with whom you agree, guess what?
While she's yelling at the kid.
Yes.
Thank you, Steve. Far From Eden is where Ellen Miller's from. So go check out Far From Eden. I know she featured one of my videos recently, and I'm not plugging her because of that. I'm plugging her because her channel's fantastic. She does a lot of really good content, and I think she's geared more towards women than men, but she's trying to help women understand men, and Erin was fantastic. I had such a good time yesterday with her and with Lindsay, and it was just funny how they were kind of ganging up on me at one point, but in a good way. We were, it was a lot of fun. But it gets to Lindsay's point, right? Which is having that diversity of opinion. Like I said, my best friend is a old school feminist, old school, burned her bra in New York City back in the day. Okay. And she and I have had many debates about various things. I turned her on the wage gap because she was a big believer in the wage gap until this is no joke, 20 years ago, we had a very long conversation over probably 4 pots of coffee about the wage gap. And I turned her on it. She finally saw the light. Was very respectful. I'm not going to say we didn't get heated at times, but we were never angry at each other. We were angry at the topic, right? She's convinced me on some things. And that is what's missing across every spectrum right now. Religion, politics, men versus women, all that stuff. You do not want to get into an echo chamber. And that's the problem. We're all in our echo chambers right now, right? I purposely go watch the opposites of Lindsay and I. I go to the feminist sites. I read their stuff. I probably follow 24 feminist pages on Facebook. And I do that because I want to see what they're saying, part of it. To be honest with you, sometimes I get content out of it, right? And I found most of them because you guys send them to me. You guys love to send me to these places. But it's interesting because sometimes they have some very valid points, and that gets lost. And we need to be more comfortable with being uncomfortable. One of the things I saw last fall was everybody saying, don't go to so and so's house for Thanksgiving because there's a political ideological difference. What? How did we get to that point?
But then you can't build a bridge if you're not willing to meet in the middle.
Well, you're burned the bridge at that point, right? Because then there's no coming back from that. If you tell, let's say it's, a family member or your family, I mean, I don't know how many videos I saw, but let's say, just for the sake of argument, I'm not going to go to my family's Thanksgiving because I believe this and they believe that. You never can come back from that. You may apologize later. You're never going to come back from it, right? And that we've lost that worldwide. I don't think it's just unique to the United States. Is we've lost the ability to respect each other.
Well, we've also lost the belief that just because you disagree with someone doesn't mean you hate them, or disagree with someone's lifestyle or belief doesn't mean that you hate them. I have a high school friend that a high school associate now, that he's a drug addict. I do not agree with his lifestyle. I do not agree with the choice he has made in his life, but I would never wish him harm. I don't wish him harm. I wish him nothing but the best. I would hope that he would turn his life around, but I don't wish him harm for the choices that he's made or the beliefs that he has. Now, of course, this is within reason. If he were like a, murderer or a rapist or something, that would be completely different, obviously. But you can always learn something, even from people with whom you vehemently disagree. A broken clock is right twice a day. And I mean, I'm the same as Dan. I follow quite a few feminist pages. Not only do I need to know what they're saying so that I can counter it and call them morons, but some of them actually have decent points. Now, I think that the way they're trying to execute that point and, make a social change on that point is wrong. I think they're coming at it from the wrong way. But I'm like, look, I see your point. I happen to agree with you. But the way you're doing it is detrimental to your cause. Can we talk? And yeah, I've had some pretty decent conversations with people with whom I am on the complete opposite of either the ideology aisle or the political aisle. But you have to be willing to talk to people with whom you don't agree. You don't want to be in a echo chamber, because then you fall into the same problem that this gentleman in TikTok said. He said, I said that about men and women being friends because women bring zero value to men in a friendship. I'm sorry, but no, I disagree.
I couldn't disagree more. And I like I said, my best friend is a female. She brings more to value to me in that friendship than maybe anyone else, right? In this terms of friendship, right? Because she is a sounding board. She gives me her perspective. We trust each other 100%. And she opens my eyes on things. And like I said, I've opened her eyes on things. And it's the same thing politically, right? I have friends on both sides of the aisle. I'm in the middle. I despise both parties, okay? And I get hated more from one side than the other. But, one side calls me, radical right-wing Nazi. And the other side thinks I'm completely nuts because I don't agree with everything they say. I hold them both accountable. I've done a political radio show. I was the guy in the middle. I used to stir shit up all the time between the two of them. But the three of us, when we were doing the show, there's performance on air. And this is another point I want to make. But when we're off air, we were like really good friends. And people don't I'll use Congress as an example. Publicly, they all hate each other, right? I got news for you. They're all having lunch together behind the scenes, right? They are not hating each other. It's all performance art. There are, and I'm not going to name names, but in New York State, for example, there are, the Democrats and the Republicans. Publicly, they hate each other. Privately, they're all hanging out in the dining room in the LOB, the Legislative Office Building. They have lunch together every day. They're chit-chatting, they're friends and all that stuff. It's all performance art, but that's translated over to every aspect of life. There's no reason that you shouldn't be able to sit down with someone you disagree with politically, socially, whatever, right? Economically, for that matter, and have a respectful conversation. You may agree to disagree, but we've lost that. It's let's get them, Let's cost them their job. Let's shut down their channels because I don't like what they're saying. When you do that on either side, you've crossed the line. That's why there's only been a couple of times I've reported channels, and it's because of death threats. Because I've gotten them, and I know Lindsay's gotten stuff too. Other than that, I'm not going to shut any channel down. I don't believe in that. And there are channels out there that I know are very bad, but it's not my place.
Why I don't delete comments in my comment section. Look, if you have the right to be a complete asshole, and I want everyone to see the problem with your way of thinking, I'll leave your comment up and let it stand on its own merits. Mm-hmm. I won't respond to you unless I think you can be useful. But
yeah, the number of comments I've deleted off, say, YouTube, count on one hand. And those were ones that were not even directed at me. They were directed at other people in comments, and they used certain words, the C word being the big one for me. If you use that word, you're done. You're off. All right, we are out of time. So real quick, let me plug that podcast again, Circle of White Light. It's up on, I just actually pulled up the email while you were chatting. It is on Rumble. And it is live now. So look up Circle of White Light on Rumble. You'll see Lindsay and I, Aaron Miller's on there, and Al, the host of it. We had a really good time. We talked for a little over an hour. Really good chat on that. And if you're watching these channels, you're probably on one of my channel or on the Boy Meets Squirrel. Make sure you follow me, follow Boy Meets Squirrel, and to follow Lindsay, go to
Squirrel Girl 1988 on YouTube and just plain Squirrel Girl on Facebook.
Wrap it up, Linz.
Bye, guys. See you next week. No, I'll see you next week.
Yes, I'm off next week.